In this episode, I sit down with Erin Bradley, author, speaker, and founder of Pursuing Freedom, to unpack how she turned burnout into breakthrough. From maxed out credit cards and riding her bicycle to client meetings, to building a scalable, value-driven business model that's built on the foundation of authenticity. Erin shares with us her roadmap to building a life and career that you love. Enjoy. Erin, it's so great to meet you. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Peter. I'm really excited.
My pleasure. So for our listeners, if you could give us all just a 1,000-foot view of Erin Bradley and everything that you do.
Sure. So the Cliff Notes version is that I joke I was not Rookie of the Year when I fell into the mortgage space in 2006 and went 100% commission in 2007 like a genius right before the market crashed. And I did take that leap because I thought I wanted some freedom and flexibility. I'm a bit of a free spirit. And after college, I lived in Spain for a couple years and kayaked to the coast of Mexico. And I got the bug, I got the wanderlust. And I thought, okay, well, self-employment is the way to go because I want the freedom and flexibility to work from anywhere, to travel, all these things. So I take the leap and I do so with no financial safety net, no game plan, no systems, no confidence. And honestly, even though I'm an extrovert, I was terrified of being seen as salesy. And a lot of the training that I was given, specifically as a lender, like go to real estate offices with rate sheets and cookies. That's what they would tell me. I was like, no, I'm a hard pass on that. So within a year, I had fallen flat on my face. I was tens of thousands of dollars in credit card debt by the summer of 2008. And I was maxed out on all my credit cards. I got a referral for a new client. And I had to ride my bike 5 miles across town in the middle of summer to meet the client because I didn't have enough money for gas. And I had to figure out what I could wear to look professional and ride a bike and not be super sweaty. So I get there early to meet to let the sweat dry off. And unfortunately, the client got there early too. And he introduced himself to me at the counter as my credit card was being declined for a $2 cup of coffee. So the worst part was, I thought that was the card that would work. I didn't want to try another one because I thought if another one gets declined in front of him, he's going to know the truth, right? The gig is up. So I just lied and I was like, that's so weird. That's my debit card. I'm going to have to call the bank. And then he paid for my coffee. And I just remember feeling like a massive loser. And I called my dad for advice after this incident happened. And he was like, look, do you think you're going to be good at this someday? And I thought, I think so. I think I could be good at this. And he's like, all right, then you have to do whatever it takes. So I opened another credit card. I bought internet leads, whatever that means, in 2008 and hired my first business coach, which a lot of people say I can't afford a coach. Well, I couldn't afford not to. I mean, I was desperate. So I literally told the coach, I'm desperate. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I just started muscling through the activity that they advised, right? Make the calls, write the notes, see the people, all the things. And it was fine. I started closing some deals. And for the next several years, I was doing fine. I was getting by and paying my bills. And then it was not until 4 years in 2011, someone gave me the book, The Go-Giver. And it was a complete paradigm shift. If anyone listening has not read The Go-Giver, I highly recommend it. It changed my life completely. And the idea is that there's go-getters, and that's what I had been, and that's what I was advised to be, which is do the work, make the calls, write the notes, see the people, to get leads, to get deals, to get money, to solve my problem. So everything felt really self-serving, and there was just something missing. I couldn't put my finger on it. And then I read The Go-Giver, and everything clicked, because the concept is to be of value to people above and beyond what you get paid to do. Or in our case, be of value even when they don't need your services. So I ended up developing a strategy that allowed me to find a way to be a resource to people even when they didn't need me, when they didn't need a mortgage, which made it a lot easier and a lot less awkward to connect with people. Previously, I was picking up the phone because the coach said to do it and log it and track it and all the things, but the impetus of the call is because I'm supposed to ask for a referral. And it just always felt really dreadful and just upstream energy. And then with the Go-Giver philosophy, I was like, okay, this makes sense for me. So long story short is the business more than doubled going into 2012. And it sounds like a great problem to have, but I went from averaging like 30 some deals a year to doing nearly 80, pregnant with my second child and working 24/7. And if anyone listening can relate, you know what it's like when you have your best month ever or your best year ever, but you're just exhausted and sometimes even resentful of your own success. Like the phone never stops. And I almost quit the business. I thought, if this is what success looks like, I'm making more money than I ever thought I would, but I don't have any time. I'm exhausted. I'm a shell of myself as a mom and a wife and a friend and a daughter and all the things. So luckily someone gave me some advice to get some help and scale the business. And so I started learning how to scale. And all along the way, I just became passionate about teaching others what I was doing and found out I wasn't alone. Like I wasn't alone when I was stressed about being financially broke, and I wasn't alone stressed in overwhelm. And I felt like we all became self-employed in pursuit of freedom, theoretically, right? Freedom and flexibility. But I didn't feel free when my credit card was being declined, and I didn't feel free when I was tethered to my phone 24/7. So yeah, I just became obsessed with pursuing freedom, which became the name of my book and my podcast. So that's kind of the long story in a nutshell. A long answer to a short question.
No, it's great though. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's fascinating to hear how there's elements of just kind of falling in while you're very intentional. And a couple of things that resonated with me, having, walked miles for 13 years in the same shoes, is very much that, like, even when you reach, like you mentioned, that best month that you had, you couldn't enjoy it. And you couldn't even really appreciate the view from the mountaintop because you were looking down at your phone because of more business that you had to work on, right?
Yep.
So I think that's amazing. I like to drill down into some of that and get into what were some of the tangible things that you started doing that started paving the way, those first steps, because I find that people can get the concept and understand and buy in and know that that's what they desire and that's what they want to do and that's the life they want to create for themselves. But the first step is the toughest because people are unsure.
Yeah,
they're not confident.
I think at the end of the day, we're recording this in 2025, and obviously the industry has been facing challenges the last couple of years, and a lot of lenders and real estate agents and real estate professionals have been struggling to sustain the consistency of their business and their income that previously was easier when it was raining loans in 2020, 2021. And when I talk to those who are thriving right now in this market, there's one common denominator. They're in massive amounts of conversation. They're having way more phone calls, more face-to-face, more activity, just more conversations. And so I think at the end of the day, we can all agree this is a relationship business. And we can get distracted by shiny objects and technology and social media and all the stuff, all the push marketing. At the end of the day, if you really want to be of value to somebody, you have to actually know what's going on with them. And what I realized is that the formula is the same. Make a certain amount of calls, see the people, all the things. We need to be in relationship with others. The resistance comes when the purpose behind the execution is to solve my problem, because I'm already starting in a negative state. If I'm panicking, if I'm looking at my pipeline drying up, if I'm looking at the interest rates, the news, the politics, all the noise around me, and I'm feeling overwhelmed in uncertainty, and I'm now going to try to activate from this negative state of need and desperation, it's going to feel out of alignment no matter what. Even if I muster up the courage to do it, it falls flat, because oftentimes when we're so preoccupied about the problem we're trying to solve, which is a me problem, even if I pick up the phone and call you, I'm probably going to be so quick to hang up and check that box and pat myself on the back that I usually miss the opportunity to actually be of value to you, to find out what's going on with you. So the gist of it is to replace my insecurity with curiosity and come from a place of, if I needed nothing, okay? If I needed nothing, number one, how would I want to feel? How would I imagine I would feel if I needed nothing? Number two, who would I want to be of value to? And number three, how will I know how to be of value to them without being in conversation? So I take my work hat off. I take my agenda out of it. A lot of us won't make the call because we have a story. This client doesn't need to buy or sell or refinance because they got a rate of 3% and blah, 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 right? We all have that narrative that keeps us out of engagement instead of into engagement. And so I say to myself, if I needed nothing, let's assume they don't need my services. Let's find a way to be of value to them. So it started with contacting my sphere, my past clients, friends, etc., and saying, listen, I'm working on a project for my business and I want you to think of me when you need anything, not just a mortgage. So I'm building a referral directory of trusted local service providers, and I'm wondering who you refer in other industries that I should know and add to my directory. I want you to think of me as your old school yellow pages. And so I started calling friends and family. They would connect me to 5-star professionals that they refer. And that could be anything from financial services to home contractors, health and wellness, etc. And as I'm meeting these business owners, I'm looking to connect with people that are my vibe. You know, they want to grow by referral. They get excited about collaborating and linking arms. If it's not that energy, no problem, not my people. I'm going to keep looking until I find them. So if I'm referred to a financial advisor that never calls me back, instead of being disappointed and letting that slow my momentum, I'm going to keep making calls to my sphere to get connected with a number of financial advisors until I find one who's eager, business by referral, aligns with me, etc. And then I'm going to find a way to be of value to them. So you have to apply the go-giver philosophy to every interaction. How can I be of value to every person I meet today? And the best way I can describe this, and I get really passionate about not advising lenders to chase realtors. The whole antiquated approach of make 30 cold calls and get them to have coffee with you and convince them to send you their loans is just so painful. It's painful for the lender. It's painful for the realtor. And it's ineffective, okay? Eventually it might work. It's a quote unquote, it's a numbers game. But if it's not fun, it's not effective, why don't we try a different approach? At the end of the day, whether it's the realtor or the financial advisor or anybody else, one thing is for sure. When he or she wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning and can't fall back asleep, I know they're not thinking about my pipeline. They're not thinking about my bank account. They're not thinking about my kids' college tuition. They are thinking about what they're worried about or what they're excited about or what they're working on. So regardless of whether I'm meeting a potential strategic partner or a person, a client, a potential, all strategic partners can become clients, by the way, when it's time for them to buy or refinance. But I want to get to the bottom of that 3 a.m. moment. So as I'm building out this tribe of trusted local service providers, I'm going to try to find a way to be of value to them with what they're working on, what they're worried about, or what they're excited about. And if I can do that, it typically looks like promoting them back to my entire database. So now I'm becoming visible with resources. I'm training my database to think of me when they need anything, which certainly means I should be top of mind when they hear the word mortgage or whatever you do for a living. And any business owner can adopt this approach. Like, I could be a photographer delivering your newborn wedding and family photos and say, hey, think of me as more than a photographer. If you need referrals when you go to buy or sell a house, when you need a financial advisor, you're a young family, you're probably going to need other resources. Contact me. I have a huge network. And you start training your clients to think of you and to come to you. And in the process, you're expanding your network. You're bringing value to everyone you meet. And there's a ripple effect that happens, and the business grows very quickly as a byproduct.
This is absolutely brilliant. You overcame the issue that you had there where it was like, I don't want to be asking and begging for business. You're creating that value in the relationships so that it's not necessarily that you ask. They know, and they come to you. And having that culture kind of developed in your book of business with your clients and your referral partners too, it makes a much more natural exchange and a more comfortable, and everyone feels cared for and taken care of. I couldn't help but think about empathy in so much of what you were saying, because that's such a focus. You can't get to what's that 3 a.m. thing for them without being empathetic and understanding, really getting into what matters most to them, so that then you can best align whatever it is, whether right now we're talking about mortgages and in the real estate. So managing that process in the best way for them. I actually have a picture hanging up in my office that's a couple laying awake in bed, and an artist did this in San Francisco when they're both like panicked looking up at the ceiling, and one side it says afraid the loan won't go through, and then the other side says afraid the loan will go through. It just goes to show you, like, there's you got to understand that, sometimes you have couples where there's different things mean different things to different people, and you have to kind of work that balance. Now, there's one thing I want to call out from what you mentioned, because I'm fascinated and I agree 1000%. this referral ecosystem, let's talk about it. How is it that it's 2025 and this ecosystem hasn't adopted yet to like what would make the most sense if you said to an alien who showed up and said, okay, in our society, you buy a house, but you have to, if you're not paying cash for it, you need to take out a loan. And there's a process. Who are you going to call first? Oh, I'm going to make sure I know what I can afford and the kind of loan and everything. But that's not how it works. It seems like the real estate industry is still very much in like the old like car sales, like fall in love with the item, then we'll figure it out. And then craziness ensues, chaos. People are feeling they're taking advantage of the whole nine. Meanwhile, a more transparent approach is, well, start off, get the numbers in order, get your home in order, and then know what you're going to afford and let that guide the process. So because of the way it is right now, tell me, how have you been able to navigate this? Obviously, what you've mentioned about creating yourself as a trusted advisor and like the go-to person is one way because you're already corresponding. But do you think there's a solution for this in general so that people know, like, let me make sure that I can afford this by the numbers first as opposed to shopping for a home first?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think that's just a common theme is that the consumer typically calls the real estate agent first, right? Yeah. And then we come in second. And this comes back to the thing I was alluding to earlier, which is my frustration around lenders running their business needing leads from realtors instead of leading with value with real estate agents. What I've learned from a very early part of my career back in 2011, 2012 is when this strategy started working for me. And I started having conversations with real estate agents to say, talk to me about your business development strategy. Like, how do you keep in touch with your past clients? And 95% of them admit that they don't keep in touch with their past clients because they have a fear of being seen as salesy. And so I remember realizing, oh my gosh, we're not alone. And it may feel lonely, but every single self-employed person out there lays awake with the same hopes and dreams and worries and self-doubt and overwhelm and uncertainty and all the things. And if we could recognize that the job title doesn't really define us as human beings, we have all of this in common. We're emotional creatures and we're all self-employed. And so we have so much more in common. And if lenders could think about their database differently, then I need realtors, I need leads. First of all, if we're putting our livelihood in the hands of anybody other than ourselves, you're not really running a business. You're just hoping for the best. And so there's a lot of time and money wasted and spent chasing agents or chasing their referral partners. I'm not saying we don't need referrals. We do. And there's an opportunity with our consumers to be direct to our database, to build those relationships in such a way that they do come to us first. But that's on us to build that reputation and that brand with our clients, to be known as the trusted advisor, not the person that the realtor told me to call. And this is a huge issue in our industry. There are so many loan officers that do not have any strategy around developing long-lasting relationships and referrals with their past clients. And I'll tell you, we did an experiment in 2019. For anyone who's listening that was in the business in 2018, you may remember that the rates went up. And I would love to say that after my business more than doubled in 2012, that it was a straight line from there, but it wasn't, because I know many of us, when we hit that personal capacity and we experience burnout, the first thing we try to do is suck it up and survive. We're so grateful to be making the money. It's fine, but we're not fine. So a lot of people play the game and they put on the game face and they have their mask on and they're just giving from an empty well. And their loved ones know that they're not really present, but they're doing their best to just hold up this business they've created, right? The second thing that happens, or the second option, is people will shrink, meaning your foot slips off the gas. You're growing your business, you hit your personal capacity, you're running out of time, you're running out of energy, enthusiasm, your foot slips off the gas, and you start to slow down again. And we start to get on that roller coaster of highs and lows, right? So it's like feast or famine. Or we convince ourselves we're better off with less business so we can have more life. And it doesn't really work that well either. And so all this to say is that it wasn't a straight line until I started putting systems and scale in place and hiring some people. So when 2019 rolled around, I came into that year having experienced a significant decline in business in 2018. The refi business had died temporarily. my P&L, I was running my own profit and loss. I had my own branch at this point, and my P&L was in the red. And my company wanted me to do layoffs, and I wasn't willing to do that because I had hired some of my good friends. So I had to turn the ship around. So I decided I'm not going to be like every lender out there chasing realtors. I realize the refi business has died, but I have my database, and I'm going to apply the exact same strategy that I developed in 2011 to turn the ship around. So we start calling our past clients and finding ways to be of value to them, and and we tracked everything. And our goal was to increase our repeat and referral from past client business rather than chasing realtors, which is what every other lender was doing. And so we went from 3 closings a month in January to 9 closings a month in March to 17 closings a month by June. And so we 5x the volume in 5 months. And we took our repeat and referral from past client business from 22% in January to 50% in April. So we watched how quickly we could control the outcome of our business. And by the way, this was not by becoming a workaholic again. I skied 75 days that winter, and I took 5 weeks vacation that year. And we camped on the lake a total of probably 6 weeks that summer with the kids. I'm not about work becoming like the whale in the bathtub with my life squished in around the edges. So it was strategic and it worked, right? But the very scary statistic is that of all of our repeat clients, only 50% were working with the same realtor. Now, think about that as a lender. We've been told to chase realtors, to get them to have a cup of coffee, to send us their deals, having no clue that some of them are losing 50% of their repeat clients because they don't have a process to keep in touch and to earn that repeat and referral business. So it was a staggering statistic. I've actually heard that the average right now is that 12% of consumers use the same realtor twice.
Whoa.
So again, as business owners, which is what we are for 100% commission, do we have a strategy where we're in the driver's seat, where we can forecast predictable growth in our business, that we have a strategy that works, that doesn't feel salesy, it doesn't feel awkward, it doesn't feel forced. It's fun, it's enjoyable. We're building business with people we care about. We're being a resource to people when they need us, and we're staying top of mind as a result. And we can create predictable growth in our business without waiting for those around us to do it for us. So
Right.
Again, a long answer to a short question, but it's fascinating to me because I feel like more lenders need to think this way, that we can't just hope for the best, fingers crossed. It's really not hard. I mean, what do they say? It's simple but not easy.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like simple in concept, complex in execution. Like you have to figure it out. And I couldn't agree more. And quite frankly, I think that the industry is going to go in that direction where those who aren't doing this, they're not going to be around. There was already a 50% plus attrition rate of the number of licensed loan originators. When you compare, I think it was 2022 to 2023, I think something like 40 some odd percent didn't renew their licenses and left the industry. So there's already been a big attrition. I think time will tell if we see something like that in the real estate end of things. It's we have a 12-month cycle for licensing, and realtors have a 2-year cycle. So that's not going to show in the data, and we're not going to get to see if that's what is going to wind up happening for realtors. But with August 14th and the implementation of the buyer agency across the country, and this was the new National Association of Realtors requirements, reserving any judgment or whatever's going on there, the practical implication is, as a real estate agent, you need to be a professional. You need to be a real estate professional now. And It's not an industry that you can be part-time, do a deal a year and know what's going on. There's changes that are continuing to happen. This buyer's agency just being one small, or not a small one, but one piece of it. And like you're mentioning, that's a crazy number to know that realtors are losing that much of the business from the past clients that aren't coming back. That's incredible.
It's also an incredible opportunity for lenders.
Yes.
So we ended up we went to the ninja selling training at the end of 2018, and they had this strategy with this like 8-week touch point process with your, like if you meet a new contact, that for 8 weeks they get different touches. And we decided to develop something similar with real estate agents where we would alternate like an item of value, a gift with a letter that would explain what sets us apart from the rest. And we used that data to articulate our intention to honor and appreciate the sacrifice they make on nights and weekends getting our clients under contract. And we recognize that when things go wrong, like the offer's not accepted or a buyer terminates on your listing or whatever, and it takes the wind out of your sails, you're not in the mood to make those past client calls or those database calls. So our commitment is to do that on behalf of both of us to make sure that this statistic never continues with our mutual clients. So we just started keeping in touch with the past clients. And then when we would find out a life event was happening, like an engagement or a baby on the way or a tragedy or, a new puppy or they lost their dog or whatever, we would then call the realtor and say, hey, FYI, there's, did you know? And give them a reason to call. And then also because we had a little team in place, we had the bandwidth to be able to do more. And so we would say to the realtors, we built this team for you, and we can split the cost of sending a gift. We have to be RESPA compliant, but we're happy to handle it on behalf of both of us and make it from both of us if you want.
That's amazing.
And so we also started asking for referrals for the agent. So maybe I'm on the phone with a past client and say, I know how much Peter loved working with you, and he may or may not have told you this, but his business is 100% by referral. And I know if any of your friends or family have real estate questions, he would love to be a resource to them if they're anything like you. And that became our commitment. And then just other value add things we did from contract to close and post closing. And so we were able to show up as a lender, not asking for leads, but showing them this is our business development strategy. This is our commitment to you. And this is how we help you change that statistic for your future clients and past clients, that they don't slip through the cracks because you didn't keep in touch. And if you do keep in touch, great, we're doubling down. But if you don't, we've got your back.
Incredible. Incredibly brilliant approach to make it something that's not so much a referral, but partnership. Really leveraging it as partnership and ownership of these businesses you're running. You can kind of I guess another way to frame it would be viewing your realtor partners, not so much as like a place to go and get, right? You're talking about the get to give. What was the name of the book again?
That book is called The Go Giver.
The Go Giver. And so along those lines, you're working with this agent and it's like you're approaching them like, look, I know my worth. I know I'm good at what I do. I want to be able to help you and your business as a partner. I don't want referrals from you. I want to be able to work together with you. What can we do? How can I help support you in X, Y, or Z? And these are the things like you mentioned about following up and staying in front. Like I can help you protect yourself against being this statistic. You can stay in front. You can stay top of mind. And also there's just the simple fact of, more hands make less work. If you get to approach the business with a realtor partner, and it doesn't have to exclusively be that. I'm sure you've worked with financial advisors, as you mentioned. They're great referral partners as well. Treating those relationships like businesses in and of themselves that you're running together, you're going to be able to accomplish way more than it just being, oh yeah, that didn't pan out with that client you sent my way,
Yeah. And I want to say full disclosure, I started by saying I was not the rookie of the year. Okay. I was on the struggle bus and I did not have a single realtor friend for the first 4 years I was in the business because I was so terrified of being seen as salesy that I just refused to do any of the antiquated sales tactics around chasing realtors. And that's an embarrassing thing to admit. But the reason is because when I hired my first business coach in 2008, it was actually a real estate agent coaching company. They later started coaching lenders, but at the time they were only coaching realtors. And so they were training me as they would train a real estate agent, which was to work my database and work my sphere. And so it wasn't until after I developed the strategy that allowed me to consistently double my business. And I started talking to agents and saying, hey, how's your business? Because this is how I've struggled. And then they would admit, I struggle with that too. And I would say, well, here's another way of looking at this. And then share the approach that was working for me. So I just want to point that out because I often think about if I could do this, anyone could do this. I'm extroverted, but I didn't even want to tell my friends what I did for a living. That's how anti-salesy I wanted to be. But as a result, I was like a secret agent and nobody knew what I did. So therefore my business was, slow. I'm just saying that it's a complete paradigm shift to think about what does it mean for me to be of value to every person I meet today? And I started listening to real estate podcasts, listening books written by realtors for realtors. And I would share the books. I would share the podcast episodes. I would text people podcasts and say, listen to this guy from New Jersey. He's got an incredible strategy, this real estate agent in New Jersey. What if we do this with our clients? Like leading with value, because at the end of the day, we really want to show up for people in what I refer to as that 3 a.m. moment. What are they excited about? What are they worried about? What are they working on? And if you can break it down to the human level with every person you have the opportunity to connect with and get curious about that 3 a.m. moment, or just get curious about how they're doing in life, what stage of life are they navigating, and get creative on how to be of value, you really cannot fail. And that is the number one common denominator of those who are literally having their best year ever right now in 2025. I have coaching clients that are doubling their business, and last year was their best year ever. So if someone out there is having their best year ever, any of us could be having our best year ever. And if the common denominator is more conversations and find a way to be of value, let's just simplify success and double down on that.
Amazing. And when it comes to simplifying success, what are some key points that people can start getting into a habit of thought or the mindset of when it comes to simple habits or routines and things like that?
Well, the schedule is everything. And it's probably the biggest challenge that most of us face, because if you come from a job where the boss told you what time to be at work and what to do, and as long as you go to work on time and do what's expected of you, you're going to get paid consistently, right? That's the expectation. But we're also expecting that the business owner or the manager has a business plan for profitability. They've hired you under this expectation, right? Mm-hmm. And then we become self-employed and we have all this free time and we don't have a schedule and we don't have a plan and we don't have a strategy that feels aligned with who we are and our personality and our interests and our stage of life. And so we're throwing stuff against the wall to see what sticks. We don't know when we have permission to turn off, so we just don't. And we develop these terrible habits that ultimately become the albatross when business is coming in, because we've developed habits around not having an off switch, being tethered to our phone from when we wake up until we fall asleep. And it's not sustainable. So it leads to exhaustion and burnout. And then that leads to the business drying up. And then you're on the roller coaster. And we've all been there, this like highs and lows, right? Mm-hmm. And the truth of the matter is that the goal is to have a simple schedule, a simple plan that matches your personality, your talents, your gifts, your interests, etc. And that you protect that time to do the things that move the needle to the results you want in your business. You have to protect it like your life depends on it, because it does, because your business depends on it and your business fuels your life. That's the goal. The goal is to have a business that fuels and finances your life dreams, your epic adventures that you daydream about, the freedom and flexibility and all the things, right? And so as silly as it sounds, it starts with when, right? We've all been given the playbook, what to do. But then we wake up in the morning and it's like, what could I do today? What should I do today? And we're looking at that problem we're trying to solve and our energy is low. And then we're mustering up courage to pick up the phone and do the things. And even just the decision making every day is energy draining. Mm-hmm. And energy is the thing that affects everything. It affects your consistency of execution. It affects your effectiveness of execution, right? Like, if you're low vibe, low light, and you're just checking boxes, you're not going to get great results. If you're fired up and excited, you become like a magnet, like a lighthouse in the storm, and the ships are coming to port, right? And so I like to have a plan where I know what Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday look like, and I know what containers of time are reserved for creating momentum in my business so that I can plan the epic life adventures I have for myself, right? And I want it to feel like a science, like a recipe for success. I always say to my coaching clients, like, you think about that. If you were to take a job because you want a steady paycheck, it's because you're trusting the business owner has that plan for profitability. And so the question is, would you trust you? The way you're running your business, would you trust you to have consistent, predictable growth in your income and have the energy and the enthusiasm and the time to love your life, And if not, it's some minor tweaks at the foundational level to create a foundation that's strong enough to hold the growth of the business that you desire and deserve.
Totally. And it's these minor tweaks that wind up actually creating this totally new structure, almost irrecognizable. But what you mentioned about, taking a salaried position, you're offloading risk. That's the way that I see it ever since I was younger and coming through college. I saw it as, no, I'm offloading the risk if I'm going to take a job somewhere and get a W-2 pay stub. I'm offloading that risk that, yes, they know what's profitable. I have a role and function. I'm going to fill that role and function, and I'm going to be compensated for that. But they're going to always tell me how much my worth is, and they're always going to be able to tell me when and what. And I reached a point when I was in college where I was like, no, I think I'm going to trust myself more. I'm going to learn to trust myself more on this. And I also happen to grow. I'm second generation in the mortgage industry, so I grew up around it. And I saw my father, who's an immigrant from Italy, and talk about working a fruit stand all the way up to being a very successful loan originator pre-2008, and then afterward. He started his own branch operation in 2008 when it was all falling apart. And that turned out to be a great part of the resume because, look, we were here. But all of this to come back around to the main point of having this realization that, yes, you can go somewhere and work. But like you mentioned, you're following their lead and their business plan. So if you're going to take a sales role, commission only, you are the arbiter of the value, your time. Well, you manage yourself in time. I was talking recently at one of my meetings that I run for networking. That was there's no such thing as time management. There's only managing yourself in time. Create that distinction because it comes and goes. But like you were mentioning, like your life depends on it. Block the time, commit the time to the activity and the things that you know are keeping the momentum going in your business, which I think is words worth gold, truly.
Yeah. I mean, it's a non-negotiable. I mean, there's someone who was on my podcast one time and she said, after 10 years of being a workaholic, working 24/7, tethered to my phone at my kids' sporting events, all the things, I realized that my actions were not a reflection of my true priorities. So if someone says to me, I want to grow my business, I say, tell me about your execution. Tell me, rattle off your formula. And if there's no formula and you're winging it, but expecting different results, you're not going to see different results. So we need to just, again, it is really about simplifying. And I have found that a couple hours a day, a couple days a week of non-negotiable, protected, pretending as if I'm in a client meeting, where if I was in this meeting right now with you, I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not letting inbound alerts and text messages and emails to interrupt my ability to be present here with you, which means I'm capable of being fully present and not distracted. But it's a challenge to do it for ourselves. And I think that most successful business owners understand the power of slowing down in order to speed up, spending time on those non-negotiables, having your actions reflect the priorities. If you want to grow your business, prove it with your actions. That's it. But it seems challenging, but it's only because there's constantly distractions and interruptions. And I always say it's not the external world's job to stop that. It's never going to stop. You're never going to stop having inbound alerts popping up on your phone. So it's not their job to grab your hand and put the phone out of the way and put you in the zone of doing what is going to get you the results that you say are your priorities. It's up to us. And it's the biggest work of all, frankly, is the inside game is the biggest work of all, is recognizing where we are behaving out of alignment with the priority we say, and the willingness to take back the wheel and say, I'm not going to give away my energy and attention to the external world's agendas. I'm going to drive this bus. I'm not a passenger, I'm a driver. And if we want to be successful in business, we have to be driving it. We can't be waiting for others to drive for us.
Right. And then when it comes to that, did you notice anything? Do you have any practices that you do? Do you flip your phone upside down when you have dedicated time that you want to focus on this task? Have you done any practical things that would be helpful for people listening?
Yeah. So I think discernment is a talent that can be developed as a business owner. And what I mean by that is Many of us are guilty of rolling over in the morning and looking at our phone if it's our alarm clock, and then finding ourselves in the rabbit hole of emails and social media, text messages, etc. And like I said, that's just allowing energy, attention, and sometimes emotion even to be hijacked before our feet have even hit the floor. So the first thing I started doing to force myself to stop doing that is in the evening, turn off access on my phone. So actually go into the settings, go into my mail, and toggle it off, because I'm going to have a compulsion to click that icon even if there's no number alerting me to unread messages. I'm still going to click it because I'm, sociopath like most of us. And so I'm clicking on that icon, and when I do, there's nothing there, and it's forcing me to remember, not right now. Okay?
Right.
So that is one thing, and that gives people anxiety because they think, what if I miss something? So the next thing I do is set an out-of-office responder. And all it says is, thank you so much for your email. Please note this inbox is not being monitored at the moment because I'm in appointments with other clients. For urgent matters, please text me at this number. Text me or call me at this number. Otherwise, I'll respond to this email within fill in the blanks, right? 24 hours or before the end of business or whatever. So now I'm managing the expectation of the email sender. And when I started doing that to create a protection of my attention in the mornings to prepare myself to be a peak performer throughout the day when I'm ready to give myself away to the external world, I noticed something is that, how many text messages I got for urgent matters when someone got that out of office responder to the email they sent me?
How
0.
Many? Oh, okay.
Because it wasn't urgent. If it was urgent, they already would have called me and then they would have texted me. And email would be the last resort. Nobody sends an email for an urgent matter. So my clients had to show me that they have more discernment around what's urgent than I did. I was treating non-time sensitive items as more urgent because I was in fear. I was anxious. And so our fear drives this reactivity of, let me drop everything and bounce because, oh my gosh, there's an opportunity. And so we pivot from business development to customer service, business development, customer service. And so if your business is dried up and your only focus is how do I bring in more business, and then you get a lead and you say, phew, and then we drop what we were doing to go service the lead and convert the lead and then get them, under contract and to the closing table, and we put all of our attention on that, then all the momentum we were creating with our business development activity comes to a screeching halt. And inevitably we close a couple deals and then we look and our pipeline's dried up. And so people think that that's just the nature of the business. It's not. It's the nature of us as human beings. And that's where systems and scale come into play, because there are ways to keep that momentum going. With 80 to 90% of your business development activity can be handled by somebody else. And if that's happening with 100% consistency, even while you're serving clients, you're not going to have this feast or famine. You're going to have a consistent lead flow coming in, and your job is to handle those leads while somebody else's job is to keep that momentum going so that the leads keep coming in the door. So it's interesting because I did have to force myself with those little, activities of turning off my email access, setting the out of office responder, protecting my time in the morning to prepare myself to be peak energy, focus, enthusiasm, right? I want to be present with my clients and with my family as well. And as a result, I learned that emails were never time sensitive. I was just treating them as time sensitive. And it just, then from that point forward, now I can scan my inbox and I can determine if something is actually urgent and choose to respond to it, or I can scan my inbox for action items and put them on a list for later on in the day when I handle my emails. But there's discernment there. That's all.
Yeah, you're making your judgment calls. You're reviewing it, and you're seeing the priorities of other people and their alignment to yours, and putting that into proper order, right?
Yep.
That's amazing. And when it comes to kind of what the whole theme that I keep gathering here is kind of like my best friend Dave, who's a partner with me in the networking company, he says there's two things that he says every meeting: structure and discipline. If you are a business owner or a sales professional, that's it. Motivation is great. Catch the wave when you can. But the two things that always, it's the structure and the discipline to follow the structure.
100%. And the funny thing about that structure piece is that I mentioned earlier, I'm a free spirit. So I thought self-employment, I can do what I want. I don't need a boss telling me what to do. I'm going to be footloose and fancy free, freedom and flexibility, all the things. And then, we know how that story played out. So I did not embrace structure. I'm actually embarrassed to admit I did not embrace structure and systems until way too late in my career. I rode that roller coaster of feast to famine probably 7 or 8 years before I realized I was my own bottleneck. And so I started to put the systems in place and implement some structure and some boundaries and a simple schedule. I don't want to be time blocked from the moment I wake up to the moment I fall asleep because that feels suffocating, right? But I thought structure was going to be suffocating. It's not. Structure is where freedom is because it's measurable. It creates predictable results. And when I'm done, I'm done. So I'm liberated. And the thing is that you can't do lead generating activity and then expect money in the bank tomorrow. But what we can do is we can do lead generating activity and we can watch that with consistency, our leads start to increase. And our leads are telling us where our closings are going to be in 60 to 90 days, which means we have time to put a stronger foundation in place if we need to enlist the help of somebody else. If we need a loan officer assistant or a marketing assistant or anybody to help us with our business, we have time because we see the leads coming in. We are forecasting the future of our business with that. And so that, again, it all comes back to just simplicity. It's like a simple schedule, a couple days a week, a couple hours a day. I watch the correlation between this activity brings me this result. When I see the leads coming in, I can start planning for success. I can expect it and I can plan for it. And that's the biggest mistake I made early on is that I didn't expect it. So I got blindsided by it. I burned out. My pipeline dried up. I panicked, right? Put my foot on the gas, burn out. It was a cycle. And the only way out of that cycle is to acknowledge where we are the bottleneck and where we are operating inefficiently and just small tweaks to address it. And now you've strengthened the foundation to move past that plateau and take your business and life to new levels.
And what you were mentioning about the bottleneck, that's like this revelation that we all can benefit from. Like looking at what's going on, and especially in the industries that we're in, like making the first step be, where am I the problem in creating the reality and the business that I know I'm capable of doing? And having that approach, because your revelation, as long as it came into your career, as far into the career as it came, there are people who go their whole careers, 20, 30 years. And I'll just speak to the mortgage industry because that's the one that I know best. They go the whole career riding that roller coaster and just hang on with fingernails and fingertips, and then they get themselves up and they're at the top of the mountain and it's like, oh, sunshine always now. And then all of a sudden, no, it's not how this goes. It's cyclical. But the things that we can do are what you're mentioning, like creating the freedom, being in the limit, right? Isn't that funny how that kind of happens? Like embracing the limitation or self-imposing the limitation to create the time and the freedom. You're sacrificing it now. No, your whole day can't be free, and just go for it. Like you were mentioning about being free spirit. You can't do that to have consistent results in a successful business. So I think that it's absolutely incredible. This looking at yourself, like, how can I optimize here? How can I create the system and in a way that can create the accountability for myself and the results that I know I want, I desire, I need, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also wild looking back because those first 7 or 8 years, what I noticed is when I would start to approach about 18 million in volume, and so as a loan officer, let's say 180,000 and 200,000 a year, earning way more than I ever imagined, previously teaching English in Spain, teaching Spanish, bartending, I was exceeding the expectations of my younger self. And what I noticed is that was my breaking point. I couldn't break through that plateau. And when I would ask people in my company that were ahead of me in the game, maybe doing 30 million, how are they doing it? This was back in 2012. And they all admitted that they work until 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. And I remember coming back to my husband. I mentioned I was pregnant with my second child. And I said to him, I don't think I'm cut out for this, because if working till 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night is the solution or is sort of the requirement of success, financial success, which is one piece of the puzzle, I don't think this is for me. Like, that's not what I signed up for. Why would I want to grow to 30 million if that's what it looks like? I'm already
live a life
hot
like
mess,
that.
right? Yeah, I'm already a hot mess at 18 to 20 million. So I look back then once I started enlisting the help of others and amazing people that are really talented and enjoy aspects of the business that are not my zone of genius. And frankly, I was forcing myself to be great at everything because I care enough about the client experience and things going well that I was trying to become a perfectionist, even though that I'm not necessarily an A-type by nature. I'm more of, big picture, visionary, creative. I'm not necessarily great at systems, but I had to learn to develop systems to ensure that I didn't let my clients down, right, with the whole mortgage experience. And so in hindsight, as I started to fire myself from the things that I didn't really actually enjoy, and I wasn't frankly that good at, and enlisted the help of those who are great at it, and then our business more than doubled, it became so obvious. And I've seen this a lot with realtors and lenders that when their income starts approaching 175, even though for realtors, that's a different amount of volume because the comp plan is different and everything else. But around that income threshold and pushing up to 250,000, I've had so many people say to me, I can't seem to break that plateau. I really want to make 375, for example, but I can't seem to break through the ceiling. And it's like, that's because there is a limit to your time, energy, and enthusiasm. And when I look back to where in 2020, we did a 6-month RV road trip and we homeschooled our kids. Which cool. I thought, well, this is going to put me out of business, right? Like, people are going to think I've pieced out. And it didn't. But in hindsight, our business grew that year from 43 million to 60 million. And obviously it was a refi boom, and that's great. But I was only working maybe 15 to 20 hours a week in my business. And I look back and realize I had more energy, more time, more present moments than ever before in my career while working way less and doing triple the volume of what had been sucking the life out of me in 2012. And honestly, again, in 2013 and 14, because it wasn't until 2014 that I finally started implementing systems and support. And that's where it started to unlock the ability to start to have exponential growth where I could actually work less and I could have more energy, more clarity, more focus, more impact, more growth, and more fun. I mean, honestly, more fun. And isn't that why we became self-employed? It's not like, this isn't the easy route. We all know that. And so if our work is just a constant state of uncertainty and stress and worry and overwhelm and burnout, and we're thinking someday I'm going to have this elusive freedom and flexibility, no, we have to claim it. But it is available. And if I could do it, so can anybody else. But you have to push through and make decisions in spite of fear all the time. Because the fear doesn't go away. We're always on the leading edge of something that feels like, well, this sounds like a great idea, but I'm terrified. What if it goes wrong? What if I fail? What if my business slows down? I mean, we're always going to be paralyzed by that chatter in our brain. But if we let it be the reason we don't try, then we stay in the cycle of uncertainty and stress and overwhelm and burnout. It doesn't have to be that way. So I think that's what's interesting, because I look back where it's like I just kept hitting my head against that ceiling, and then I'd run out of steam, and then my business would slow down, and then I'd panic, and then I'd put my foot on the gas and hit my head, run out of steam. It was just never ending. And to your point, some people will live their whole career like that. And I don't think that's what we signed up for. So if our reality doesn't match the vision we had when we started, why not take the easy route and go work for somebody else?
Right.
So,
which commonly is what happens. Like, you look at people in our industry and also in the real estate industry, realtors that wind up picking up other jobs. And then when there's a boom, they come back. And it's that kind of life cycle. But exactly like you're saying, like, you have to take the ownership and lead it. And you do the things that are the high value and are going to generate the results, which also is not a solution or a formula that just you have it set and then you're done. There are base concepts, but it always requires adjustment and pivoting. And like you mentioned earlier on about, that financial advisor that doesn't return your calls, and you can get bummed out about it, or you could just pivot and just see that as, well, that's not obviously going to be the fruitful, thing. It's not going to be the fruitful endeavor right now. And it's come up so much and I keep rattling around my brain. I'm not going to get it right, but there's like the Nietzsche quote, which is like a person who knows their why can handle any what or how, right? If we're, and I, like you, I listen to a lot of real estate investing podcasts and motivational podcasts, and I've worked with some coaches in the past. And, what comes through across it all is that no matter how difficult, because businesses get tough, it's the nature of things. They're not always going to be easy. And if they're always easy, look out, because they're going to not be easy and it's going to be really bad at some point, for the most part. This is the balance of how things work. But if we can understand why we're doing what we're doing, know what our value is, beyond the shade of a doubt, you can manage all of these things. It's not to say that fear won't be there, but that is the fuel that's going to get you over that hump of the fear that's stopping you from just picking up the phone and calling. And doing those little things. I can say I started calling past clients, and one of the experiences I had was, Erin, I felt amazing. Not because I was getting business in, I felt great talking to my clients. And I was like, how dare I? I felt like an idiot. I was like, dude, you're struggling through trying to do all these things and cultivate new relationships and stuff. Like, the people that you've helped are the best people to reach out to, because they already know how well you can do what you do. And it was fun. I got to catch up. I got to hear about life. I got to hear, there were some clients I haven't talked to and I'm ashamed of, but some of them I didn't talk to for probably about a year. I would at least try one touch point a year. I've changed my strategy now, but once a year. And so I talked to them, and it was like, I was able to connect them with a painter. I was able to connect them with an environmental partner that I work with. And like, I'm getting to help and be valuable to my partners too. And it was just like, this is amazing. And I felt good. Like, at the end of the day, for me, it was like, oh, I am making a difference for people. Like, I'm helping them. They're living in this home that, like, I got to, like, that's my why. That's why I got into what I did, why I do what I do. You get to be part of that. Sometimes it's the only long-term commitment some people make in their lives. That's besides the point. But, you're involved in that process and guiding them through, providing value and educating them. I love it. It's the best part about it.
It's funny too, because when I'm talking with coaching clients and they say, oh, I'm the worst at keeping in touch with my past clients. I feel so salesy. I don't know what to say. They don't need to buy or sell. And first thing I say is, well, that's a you problem.
Love it.
So stop thinking so much about yourself.
It's like, oh, congratulations. That is all up to you. Like,
and
no one else.
The second thing is, what is more salesy? You had a natural connection with your client from the pre-approval phase through under contract to closing. You made a new friend, basically, right? This, that's not all of our clients, but it is a good percentage of them. And then you got paid and never talked to them again. Or you call them and say, oh my God, your name just popped up on my phone. Or I was going through my files and I saw your name and realized I haven't talked to you. I'm so embarrassed. I can't believe it's already been 2 years. You're one of my favorite clients. And I'm so sorry I've lost touch. Like, how the heck are you? How's the home? How's life? How are the kids? Like, what's more salesy, to get paid and never talk to them again? Or just be honest. I'm sorry I lost touch. I used to joke, like, anyone listening, go into your database and make a list of all the people that bring a smile to your face and tell them, I was listening to some crazy lady from Colorado on a podcast, and she said to pick up the phone and call all my favorite people, and you were one of the first people that came to mind. Is that salesy? No. It's genuine. And by the way, you're right. It's actually fun. You actually can stay connected with people that bring a smile to your face. You can find a way to be a resource to them. At a minimum, you can just catch up, and it's nice to talk to you again, and it's good to hear your voice, and I'm so glad to hear everything's going well, or I'm so sorry to hear about such and such. It is not that hard, but the paralysis comes from we're thinking about ourselves, and we're thinking about our problem, and we're thinking they don't need us right now, and it's like, you're right. So stop thinking about yourself, take your work hat off, come from a place of curiosity, find a way to be of value. There's no end in sight. Then you've got a snowball gaining momentum, and all of a sudden your business is picking up seemingly out of the blue, not because you called this person, but because you showed up, because the light came on within you. And when the light is on, it's like vacation energy. You go on vacation and your phone rings and it's so annoying. It's because your vacation energy, you're excited, your light is on. And it's like, so we got to curate the vacation energy from the inside out with no need, no desperation, no agenda. Just do it because you care about people. You cannot be stopped if that's your motive. That's it.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I like that as kind of like our closing thought. Because if we're going to share anything for everyone today, that closing thought, find someone in your database. If you're a sales professional out there in real estate or mortgage, your call to action today, find someone in your database, give them a call, let them know you're thinking about them, and watch. I've been a beneficiary of that myself, and that is amazing advice, truly. So, Erin, thank you so much for your time and sharing your insights. Before we go, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can listen to you, your book, everything.
Sure. So everything is Pursuing Freedom. On Instagram, it's Pursuing Freedom Official. The book is Pursuing Freedom. The website's pursuingfreedom.com. There's actually a free 5-step guide to more referrals on the website. It's basically the Cliff Notes, if anybody remembers what those were. Now it's ChatGPT, but it is the abbreviated version of the book. It's free, and you're welcome to go download that. But it takes you through the 5 steps of clarifying what you want, who you want to work with, how to be of value to them. It even provides scripts to make it easy, not cheesy, and it's very, very effective. I had a lender in my community, which is called The Collective. It's just a national community of realtors and lenders. We meet a couple times a week in a high-level mastermind. And the majority of my clients are thriving right now because we're simplifying success. We're having fun doing it. And one of the lenders applied that strategy, and within 2 weeks, he had 17 new referrals. And he was in a bit of a slump when we connected. And a lot of people are in a slump right now. That's okay. I heard something recently. I loved it. It was about, if you can imagine your life is a journey of ascension going up, right? Like imagine you're climbing a mountain. If you've ever climbed a mountain, I live in the mountains in Colorado, so I climb a lot of mountains. You could be going up the mountain, but there are times where there's a little bit of a valley, there's a dip. And sometimes, specifically in the market we've been in this climate the last couple of years, people can feel like they're in a valley. Like they feel despair and darkness and not sure how we're going to get out of this. And at the end of the day, you're still at a higher elevation than you were when you started. You have amassed enough relationships and skills and experience, and you've lived enough life to be uniquely equipped to be a resource to somebody else going through something right now. That is enough to build a business around. And it can be really fun and interesting to kind of take the house down to the studs and really evaluate the future of your business as something you want to design and have fun running towards, rather than looking backwards where you came from and saying, I need to go back. I need to go back to the fundamentals, back to the basics. It's like, not necessarily, because you're not the same person you were when you started. We want to look forward with eager anticipation of where we're headed. And the valley doesn't define us. So it's never a straight line. I feel like I've fallen on my face enough times to know that if I fall on my face again, it won't be the first time, it won't be the last time, and I have the tools, right? And as long as I put myself in the room with other people that are looking ahead with eager anticipation, we're going to rise together. We're going to go places together, and there's magic in that. So I just don't want anyone thinking that there's nothing special about anyone who's thriving right now other than their decision to do it. And if you get in the room with them, you'll find out about the times that they've scraped their knees or knocked their teeth out, getting to where they are now. And it's there to remind us that we all have it within us to make a decision anytime to say, all right, I've been in a valley, I've been in despair, I don't like it here. So what am I going to do about it? I'm going to find the room where people are stepping up, and I'm going to step up with them. It's just, I don't know. It's powerful. Right on. I love it. Powerful. That is such a powerful approach and mentality. Thank you so much for sharing, Erin. Thank you for being on. For everybody listening, please follow Erin's show, Pursuing Freedom. Check out her book. I'll be back with an update next week on our mortgage rates, what's going on in the economy and the market, and stay tuned for the Mortgage Mondays, where we're going to keep diving into mortgage facts and information. In the meantime, have a great rest of your week and take good care.